Discover 12 spine-chilling legends from Ohio, sinister tales of the haunted and cursed. The leaves rustled ominously in Cedar Grove, where the air grew thick with unease. Families bustled around, joyously preparing for the annual Halloween festival, but pale whispers carried on the breeze, warning of dark secrets buried beneath the cheerful facade. It was here, in this charming town blessed with pumpkin patches and shimmering autumn colors, that Matt Ellis, a devoted single father, felt the weight of an unsettling darkness. He could feel it in his bones, a creeping chill that lingered just out of sight. As the sun sank behind the trees, the lanterns flickered brightly, illuminating the joyous laughter of children and the enticing aroma of caramel apples. Yet shadows loomed, dark figures lurking just outside the glow. In the midst of the happiness, papers clutched tightly detailed a curse, an ancient pact written in blood, demanding a sacrifice to satisfy the twisted roots of Cedar Grove. But what could be crueler than a child being taken? Lily, Matt's 10-year-old daughter, danced among the kids while he attempted to keep his thoughts at bay. Then she was gone. Lily! Panic ripped through him, adrenaline surging as the laughter faded into an agonizing silence. Festivities turned to chaos, frantic parents shouting for their children, their eyes wide with dread. The town rallying together felt nothing short of an orchestra of despair, voices breaking against each other, weaving through the night air with rising fear. Matt's heart pounded hard enough to break through his chest. The local authorities, ever the unshakable force, assured him they would find her soon, but their dismissive arrogance ignited a fire of distrust within him. Before he could think straight, whispers reached his ears. A curse? A monster? It snatched children each generation to satiate an ancient evil. A name, perhaps? The name of someone he knew too well. "I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, they'll find her." But the fear, the icy grip of dread, told him a different story. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As Matt scoured the town, his older son Jake found their grandfather's dusty journal, revealing a past hidden beneath layers of tradition. The pages whispered of dark allegiances and buried sacrifices. Cedar Grove was not just a picturesque suburb, it was a carefully crafted illusion of innocence, where each festival masked a ritual of futility. Jake's search led him to forgotten corners of town, the overgrown lots, dilapidated buildings, all rife with shadows hugging tight to the ground. Every creak sent chills through his spine as he unearthed notes, a sinister collection of tales linking the town to a history of deception. Behind friendly smiles, there loomed something sinister, and every step closer to the truth heightened the tension, feeding an unshakable feeling of being hunted. When the festival reached its climax, Jake saw the townsfolk, the very foundation of his life, cheering. But beneath the surface, the pressure mounted. As he pieced together the horrifying puzzle, a chill unlike any other enveloped him, and a dark shadow loomed over the celebration. Could he confront the veiled threat before it consumed not just his sister, but the very essence of Cedar Grove? The truth awaited, wrapped in terror and the cries of the innocent. Jake's heart raced. The cheers of the townspeople felt hollow, echoing like a distant memory swallowed by an unsettling void. He frantically glanced around, searching for meaning among the chaos, still clutching the journal that had become an anchor in this storm of dread. "Jake, over here!" A voice broke through. It was his friend Sam, a boy from school, his face pale and drawn. "You have to see this." Jake followed him through the crowd, dodging festival-goers blissfully unaware of the terror festering just beneath the surface. They stumbled upon a dimly lit alley, the fading light of the festival barely reaching its depths. There, amid discarded props and forgotten decorations, stood a little girl. Her dress, tattered and dirty, clung to her slight frame. "Lily," Jake whispered. The girl turned, but it wasn't Lily. Her eyes were wide, reflecting the lantern's glow like reflective black holes. "They took my sister," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They take them every year." Panic bubbled up in Jake's throat. Who takes them?" She pointed behind her, down the alley. "He comes from the woods. He smells like rot and decay." A sharp chill crept through Jake as he turned to Sam. "We need to get out of here." But just as he turned back, the girl was gone, vanished like mist in the dawn. The heart pounding in his ears was accompanied by a sudden wind that swept through the alley, carrying with it the distinct scent the girl had mentioned. Jake fought against the urge to retch. "Can you smell that?" he asked Sam, his voice trembling. "Yeah." Sam's face scrunched up in disgust. "It's weird, like something's dead." The chill deepened, settling into their bones as an ominous darkness surged forward from the woods. The festival lights seemed to flicker in unison, plunging the alley deeper into shadow. "Jake!" Sam gripped his arm tightly. "What do we do? We can't stay here." Before Jake could respond, the wind howled, an otherworldly wail that echoed through the alley. A dark shape materialized just beyond the reach of the fading light, limbs twisted and elongated, its eyes glowing with an unnatural hunger. Jake's instincts screamed for them to run, but fear rooted him in place. Just then, a familiar voice echoed in his mind, the words from the journal, echoing like a warning. A sacrifice. That which is taken must be returned. "Sam, we need to find my dad. He has to know," Jake shouted as panic surged through him. But the darkness was moving closer, slithering like a serpent. A guttural growl filled the air, silencing the distant laughter of the festival. Without a thought, they turned and ran, fear driving them deeper into the heart of Cedar Grove, desperately searching for their father and the truth he could unravel. As they raced through the alleys, the roots of the town seemed to twist beneath their feet, pulling them back toward the beckoning darkness. What waited for them around the next corner? Was there time to save Lily, or would the curse claim another? The shadows grew heavier, suffocating their bravery, but there was no turning back now. Jake's breath came in ragged gasps as they sprinted forward, fear twisting in knots in his stomach. The deeper they got, the more Matt felt it, the cold, clammy grip of dread tightening around his heart. He had to find Lily. He had to break the curse before it consumed them all. But the grave truth loomed larger than the shadows themselves. "Jake, keep running," Sam yelled, pulling Jake along as the malevolent force chased them down. And all Jake could think was, who would be sacrificed next? Would they escape in time, or would the biting darkness of Cedar Grove claim their souls? The cold air bit at Jake's lungs as they sprinted through the labyrinth of alleys. Shadows danced around them, twisting in strange, unsettling ways beneath the flickering festival lights. Every echoing footstep seemed to call back the dark shape lurking behind, crawling closer like a nightmare refusing to end. "Jake, we can't keep running like this," Sam gasped, his breath mingling with the fear-infected air. "What if we're leading it to your dad?" The thought sent a fresh wave of panic through Jake. He pushed harder, adrenaline pumping through him like wildfire. "We have to warn him. He knows about this stuff." They veered right, hoping to cut through to Main Street. But as they rounded the corner, they skidded to a halt. The entrance to Main Street was eerily quiet, the usual festival buzz replaced with an unnerving stillness. Lights dimmed and flickered, as if caught in a dance with the darkness lurking just out of sight. "Where is everyone?" Sam whispered, his voice trembling.
Jake stepped forward hesitantly, straining to hear a single laugh or cheer. Instead, he heard it, the unmistakable rustle of movement, soft and patient, creeping from the shadows. It's coming. Jake backed away instinctively, clutching the journal like a talisman. We need to hide. But where? Their surroundings felt like a trap. The buildings loomed, offering no solace. Instead, they felt like silent witnesses to the horror unfolding. Jake noticed a narrow, weathered door.
To his left, half open and swaying slightly. Without thinking, he grabbed Sam's arm and pulled him toward it. They slipped inside, the door creaking ominously as it closed behind them. They crouched low in the small space, surrounded by dark wooden shelves packed with dust-covered mementos from a time long forgotten. Shadows clung to every corner, and the air was thick with the stagnant smell of mildew. "What now?" Sam murmured, panic rising in his voice. "We wait," Jake whispered, eyes wide as they trained on the door, expecting the creature to burst through at any moment. The suspense hung heavily, their breaths slow and quiet, each sound magnified like thunder in the silence. The growl from the alley was now closer, rumbling softly, punctuated by a repeated scratching sound at the door, a relentless clawing against the wood. Jake's heart hammered in his chest. It smelled like rot, he recalled, the memory of the girl's words creeping back into his thoughts. This was what she had meant. Suddenly, a sharp crash rang out. The door bucked violently as something heavy struck it from the other side, sending splinters flying. "They found us!" Sam cried, eyes filled with terror. But as the door broke open, they weren't met with the creature. Instead, a figure loomed in the threshold, half bathed in darkness. Tall and shadowy, it swayed gently like a tree caught in a storm. Jake squinted to see, but all he caught was the glimmer of eyes shining with an unnatural light. "Lily?" Sam choked out, incredulously. No, it wasn't Lily. The figure leaned closer, revealing features that twisted as though caught between worlds. "Help me," it rasped. Jake felt ice water pour through his veins. This wasn't a rescue. This was a trap. "Run!" he shouted, the panic igniting again. They bolted, racing past the creature and back out into the night. The growl erupted again, urgent and furious. The darkness chased them with renewed fervor. "Where do we go now?" Sam shouted, his voice breaking. Jake's thoughts raced. Where could they seek safety from something so relentless? What was the significance of the journal in his arms? Was it truly a back door to salvation, or the last tether to the horror? They dashed down another alley, hearts pounding like drums against the night air. But ahead, a chilling realization hit him. The moon's glow had vanished, the air grew colder, and the familiar path felt less certain than the maze of horror they now navigated. And then Jake saw it, a figure in the distance, dressed in a tattered festival costume, eerily similar to the girl's. "Jake," Sam gasped, "do you see that?" With dread curling in his stomach, Jake could only nod. Who would be wearing a costume like that, walking so calmly in the darkness? Each step toward it felt like a step deeper into the shadows. As they moved forward, Jake's grip tightened on the journal. The words scrawled inside echoed like frantic whispers in his mind. Sacrifice, take and return. What would they have to return, and at what cost? The figure ahead loomed closer, shuffling in the shadows. It was a girl, or at least her form resembled one. The hollow eye sockets and stitched mouth told another story. "Jake," Sam whispered, "what do we do?" Jake could barely form a response. The journal felt heavier in his hands, its pages whispering secrets he didn't want to hear. He could feel Sam's unease radiating off him, a palpable urge to flee, but what lay behind them was just as menacing. As they approached, the girl raised her hand. In that moment, time halted. "Help," she breathed again, the word tumbling from her lips like broken glass. Jake's heart sank. This was the embodiment of the curses he had only read about. His instinct screamed at him to turn back.
Was this the price they had to pay? Was she the cost of the journal's veiled promises? "Keep moving," he urged Sam, breaking the spell. They skirted around her, taking quick, trembling steps into the deeper shadows of the alley. But the girl followed. Her movements were jerky, erratic, like the flickering lights that surrounded them. The darkness swelled, engulfing every ounce of hope they might have had. "Where do we go?" Sam asked, panic now threading through his voice. "Anywhere but here," Jake yelled, desperation clawing at his throat. They needed to regroup, to think, but the girl's whispering voice followed them, curling like smoke into their minds. "Help me," it echoed in their heads, twisting reality. "Shut up," Jake shouted to the shadows, wishing he could banish the ghostly plea. They sprinted down the alley, sweat trickling down their backs as they felt the chill deepen. Each breath cut into their lungs, the darkness growing thicker, a living thing hungry for despair. As they turned a corner, the journal slipped from Jake's grasp, landing with a thud on the asphalt. He gasped, skidding to a halt. The words, the enigmatic guidance. Was it foolish to abandon it? "Jake, we have to go," Sam urged, the urgency burning in his eyes. Before he could respond, a guttural sound erupted from behind them, a warning growl that reverberated through the night. They froze. The growl intensified, vibrating in their bones like a siren calling them to doom. Jake turned back. The girl stood at the alley's entrance, eyes flickering with a predatory hunger. Shadows wrapped around her tighter, shaping a monstrous silhouette. It was no longer clear if she was a victim or something far worse. With a frantic decision, Jake turned to Sam. "We can't leave without it." "Are you crazy? That thing is coming," Sam pleaded, glancing fearfully back. But Jake had already bolted back toward the journal, each step feeling like a gamble with fate. He could hear Sam's footsteps trailing behind, hesitating, caught up between brotherly loyalty and sheer terror. The girl took a step forward, unearthing a sense of dread slammed into Jake's psyche. She was both lost and a predator. "Jake!" Sam called, his voice trembling now. Jake reached for the journal. The air was heavy with something dark and ancient. As his fingers closed around it, a laughing echo broke free from the girl's stitched lips. It rippled through the alley, a haunting melody of longing and malice. With the journal in hand, Jake looked back at Sam, who had wide-eyed horror plastered on his face. "Go, now!" They turned and ran again, swallowing the panic building in their throats. But as they sprinted, another figure appeared ahead, a second ghost in tattered remnants of festival clothing. This one grinned, lips peeling back to reveal a mouth filled with decay. "Join us," it hissed, an invitation that felt like death itself. They were surrounded. Jake's mind raced frantically. What twisted game were they trapped in? Could the journal be the key to escape, or was it a gateway to something worse? With a surge of adrenaline, he shouted, "We need to find Dad!" But would he even believe their horrors? Could anyone? As the shadows closed in tighter, Jake realized they were running out of time. Will they find safety, or would the next turn lead them deeper into the darkness? Something tells him they may not leave this festival unscathed, or at all. The figures around them shifted, merging with the dark like smoke. Their laughter sliced through the air, a cacophony of memories long forgotten and deaths unavenged. Jake could feel the heat of their eyes boring into him, could smell the decay clinging to the grimy walls of the alley, punctuated by the taint of something unnatural. "Keep running," Sam shouted, his voice breaking with terror. With the journal clutched in his hands, Jake could feel the weight of history and horror bearing down on him. The air thickened as if the shadows were tightening their grip, squeezing out their breath, their hope. Jake led the way, heart racing, dodging into another darkened passage as dread wrapped around them like a noose. The echoes of the girl's hollow pleas and the mocking laughter chased them. It was as if the darkness itself was alive, feeding on their fear, angry for their intrusion. "Where's that place?" Jake fumbled, desperate to recall any clue from the journal, but the words blurred in his mind. "The park? The entrance?" "Just keep running," Sam panted, his breaths coming in ragged gasps. "They're right behind us." They burst into a wider street where flickering streetlights cast long, ghostly shadows. Jake tried to focus, scanning their surroundings for any sign of safety, but despair coiled tightly in his stomach. "Look, the fountain," Sam pointed at the distant glimmer, its water trickling like a soft promise, a reprieve from the chaos that clawed at their heels. They sprinted towards it, just as the darkness erupted behind them. A chilling scream echoed, pure terror that jolted them to their bones. The girl had joined the
Other figures. They advanced, fluid in their movements, relentless and unstoppable. "Jake!" Sam's voice broke like glass. "We can't keep this up! They'll catch us!" "Just a little further," Jake shot back, determination now fueling his legs. The fountain's glow became their beacon, pulling them closer, but a shadow darted from the corner of his eye. Out of instinct, he glanced over. One of the figures, a girl with wild hair, her mouth wide in a twist of mockery, lunged toward them. A wild energy surged through Jake, and he felt himself shout out a desperate plea. "What do you want from us?" "No escape!" she shrieked, the sound splintering as she lunged, piercing the air between them. "Join us in the darkness!" They skidded around the fountain, its water splashing up around them as they desperately ducked down. The droplets felt alive, cold like fingers tracing their skin, a taunting reminder of the approaching terror. "Do you remember what it said? The journal?" Jake gasped out, flipping it open as they hid behind the fountain's rim. "Anything about fighting back?" "I don't know. Just," Sam grunted, scanning the alleyway they had come from. "Just read it. Find something." Fingers trembling, Jake flipped through the pages, chance after chance slipping away as his eyes skimmed for answers. The words danced mockingly, just out of reach. He stumbled over phrases about curses and binding spells, but fear clouded his thoughts, rendering every sentence useless. "Focus, Jake, focus," Sam urged, panic-stricken. "Think of Dad. We need him." With those words echoing in his mind, an idea sparked, though shaky. Maybe the way out is connected to him, or whatever we unleashed. The shadows flickered close, filling the air with dread, delighting in their fear. "He can't save you," the girl's voice rang out, a malicious lilt threading through the darkness. "No," Jake shot back. "He can. He has to." The assertion held more than just hope. It became a lifeline amidst the swirling nightmares. Just then, something cold brushed against Jake's arm, and he froze. The wind shifted, and the shadows began to pull back, as if anticipating a change in the impending storm. "Jake, what's happening?" Sam's voice trembled, dragging Jake's focus back to the present. Something's shifting." He turned toward the darkness, drawing courage from the thin thread of belief that sparked within him. The journal thrummed in his hands, almost alive, urging him to say aloud the words that could change everything. With the figures closing in, Jake's heart thundered in his chest. "I don't know what happens next, but it has to work." As he prepared to speak the incantation that could bind or destroy, the air thickened with anticipation. Shadows caught between realms seemed to twist impatiently, waiting for the unraveling. Would it be enough to save them, or would it mark their end? The decision hung in the balance as darkness circled like a storm, and Jake knew they were teetering on the brink of the unknown. The journal vibrated, a resonant hum echoing through Jake's bones as he faced the encroaching darkness. Sam's frantic breaths quickened beside him, each gasp filled with raw fear. "Say it," Sam urged, eyes wide, reflecting the flicker of streetlight that seemed to dance with shadows. "What if it backfires?" As if answering, the laughter that surrounded them spiked, ringing out louder, gleeful, hungry. The figures closed in tighter, their movement a nightmarish fluidity, almost like water, ready to swallow them whole. Jake swallowed hard, the words pressing against his throat like ice. I have to try. The inked symbols slid through his mind, fragments of knowledge swirling in the chaos. He inhaled sharply, feeling the coolness of the fountain water splatter across his skin, an urgent reminder of reality. Then he spoke. In the name of, his voice quivered but gained momentum, the lost and forsaken, I bind you. Suddenly, a deafening crack echoed through the alley, like thunder at night. The ground trembled, causing Jake to stumble slightly. Sam's grip tightened on his arm as the air around them erupted with an almost tangible energy. A radiant light burst forth, shimmering for an instant, creating a barrier between them and the advancing figures. The laughter stopped. Confusion swept through the darkness. The figures halted, their twisted forms retreating slightly, blinking like startled animals in the sudden brightness. Hope sparked within Jake, but it was quick to dissolve as he noticed how the light trembled. The glow seemed unstable, flickering like a dying flame in a strong wind. We held them back. We can do this. Sam's voice cracked with disbelief and rising hope. Not for long, Jake murmured, his heart racing. Despite the initial success, doubt crept into his veins. A chilling realization that their salvation might be fleeting. I need to find more, something to solidify the protection. As he turned back to the journal, the pages rustled violently, as though an unseen force sought to resist his touch. Scraps of parchment floated around him like specters, bathing in the golden glow, inscribing images almost out of sight. "Jake, look out!" Sam shouted. Jake's heart dropped as he felt a chilling breeze sweep through the air, as if the darkness had taken offense. The figures began to swirl, forming a mass of shadows, coalescing into one ominous form. A grotesque figure that towered over them, more defined than the rest. Its eyes smoldered like dying embers, and its grin was a twisted thing, full of malice. "No more games," it growled, voice like gravel breaking underfoot. "You'll pay for your intrusion into our domain." The barrier faltered and dimmed, pulsing with uncertainty. Jake could feel a primal fear clawing up from his gut as he fought to maintain his focus. "I'm not done," he shouted, struggling against the pull of despair. "You don't control me." From somewhere deep within the journal, a single phrase echoed louder and louder, breaking through the chaos. "The past can be rewritten." The figure hissed, "You think you can just rewrite what you've awoken?" "I have to believe that I can," Jake asserted, clenching his fists. "I won't let you take us." Just as the shadows lunged forward, ready to engulf them, Jake closed his eyes and called forth every ounce of energy he could muster. Words flowed from him, sounding almost ancient, shaking the very fabric of reality around them. "Release these souls bound to darkness." And then the figure screamed, a cacophony of anguish and rage that shattered the night, their forms rippling like flowing water trying to escape gravity. The light swelled, flickering furiously. Jake felt the force push against him like a tidal wave threatening to sweep him away. He tightened his grip on the journal, knowing that victory was within reach, but also fraught with peril. Would the bond he formed be strong enough to shatter the grip of the darkness, or would he fall prey to the very horror he sought to combat? As he fought against the surge of shadows, he realized that the outcome might not just determine their survival, but also the unveiling of sinister truths he was not prepared to face. "Keep pushing," Sam shouted, but a chilling whisper threaded through the air. "Whatever happens next, the truth shall come for you both." The darkness entwined them again, colder and more bitter. The intensity rose as the struggle escalated,
and Jake braced himself for the unknown. Would they find freedom, or would they descend deeper into the abyss? The ground shook violently beneath them, the tremor rippling through their feet and into their hearts. The figures, now a mass of shadow, quivered in rage, their eyes like coals burning in a pit of despair. A cacophony of wails erupted, filling every crevice of the alley as it threatened to drown them. "Jake, hold on to the light," Sam shouted, his voice barely cutting through the sea of noise. With gritted teeth, Jake focused, willing the light to stay bright, but each second felt like an hour. The energy around him pulsed madly, wavering like a flickering bulb. Sweat trickled down his back as he made one last desperate attempt, hoisting the journal closer, its pages now a frenzy of movement, words reshaping before his eyes. As he scanned the pages, his heart raced with every turn. He saw remnants of battles fought and souls tangled in anguish, desperate pleas from those who once sought freedom just like him. Each line he read dug deep into his soul, resonating with the dread he felt at that moment. "Listen, Sam, it says here that these spirits might be bound to a specific item. We have to find it. It's the key to their release." His voice trembled, but surged with newfound determination. "Where?" Sam yelled, a hint of hope breaking through the fear-stained chaos. Jake pointed to a narrow, shadow-cloaked passage just ahead. "There! I think we can find their tether there." Before they could move, the monstrous figure lunged at them, its form twisting,
and writhing dark tendrils shooting out, clawing for their flesh. "You'll find nothing but despair," it roared, the sound reverberating in Jake's skull. "Run!" Jake screamed without thinking. They bolted toward the passage, adrenaline pushing them forward despite the shadows hammering against the light shield. The air was thick, almost suffocating, and Jake felt the oppressive weight of despair threatening to drag him back into the dark. They skidded into the passage, a narrow corridor soaked in gloom. The walls pulsed with an unseen energy, vibrating like a living thing, echoing the distant cries of the haunted. Sam stumbled, his shoe catching on the uneven ground, but Jake grabbed his arm to pull him upright. "Go, we need to find it," Jake urged, heart hammering in his chest. They pressed deeper into the shadows, the sounds of torment mounting, a symphony of hopelessness that threatened to consume them whole. Jake felt cold tendrils brush against his skin like the icy fingers of the damned. He shuddered but pushed ahead, thoughts racing. As they reached a dimly lit space at the end of the passage, their breaths turned to fog around them, merging with the oppressive silence that clung heavier than before. In the center lay an old pedestal, its surface covered in a thick layer of dust. Upon it rested a tarnished locket. "That must be it," Sam pointed, eyes wide, pulse quickening. Just as Jake approached, a dark wail erupted, raw and agonizing. The figure from before surged into the chamber, fury twisting its features. "Fools, you cannot undo what has been done." Jake hesitated, the locket inches from his outstretched hand. What if, touching it, unleashed even more horror? As he debated, Sam stepped beside him. "We have to try, Jake. It's our only chance." His voice was steady, but his eyes danced with peril. Before Jake could respond, a shadow leapt forward, blocking their path. The weight of dread hung heavy in the air, closing in. "Take it, or die," it roared, the force of its voice sending chills rippling down Jake's spine. With trembling hands, Jake reached for the locket. Would this act be salvation or a deeper descent into the darkness? Would unraveling the secrets bound to this object lead to freedom, or bring forth a truth more sinister than they could fathom? As his fingers brushed the cold metal, the world around them began to twist and swirl, reality bending impossibly.
The shadows stirred restlessly, and deep within the darkness, he heard a whisper that sent a thrill of terror through him. "You've made your choice. Now face the consequence." The air crackled with energy, and Jake braced for whatever came next. What awaited them beyond the threshold of that cursed locket? The moment Jake's fingers wrapped around the locket, a surge of ice shattered through his veins. The pendant pulsed under his touch, a rhythm echoing like a heartbeat, both alive and demanding. In an instant, the dim chamber around them exploded with color and sound.
The shadows writhed violently, transforming into a swirling mass of distorted faces, each one contorted in torment. "Jake, what did you do?" Sam shouted, panic lacing his voice. I don't know," Jake gasped, pulling the locket closer, dread pooling in his stomach. With a thunderous roar, the dark figure lunged again, but now it was different. Its eyes, once mere embers, burned fiercely like wrathful suns, illuminating the faces trapped within the shadows. They cried for release, their pleas echoing in a million voices, filled with anguish. "I am bound to this place," the figure howled, its massive form expanding, drawing power from the chaos swirling around them. "You have awoken what should never have risen." The air turned frigid, a sinister chill wrapping around their throats like an unyielding noose. Memories, festering and dark, flooded Jake's mind. Images of long-forgotten rituals and anguished souls played like a nightmarish slideshow. He could feel their despair clawing at him, whispering secrets he was not ready to hear. "Jake, focus," Sam urged, his voice breaking through the chaos like a fragile beam of light. "We need to control it." Control? What did that even mean? Jake squeezed the locket tighter, feeling the cold metal become searing hot as flashes of agony filled his mind. The spectral faces twisting, reaching, begging for salvation. But as they cried, a part of him resonated with their pain. What if I can help them?" The words slipped out before he could catch them, striking Sam like a blow. "They're trapped for a reason," Sam shouted back, his face a mask of worry. "You can't trust them." But Jake was already lost to the madness, the desire to save overcoming fear. He felt the energy shift, felt the potential in the darkness. His breath quickened, heart racing wildly. The locket had become a beacon, drawing energy from the cries of the damned. "Release me!" the figure bellowed, stretching its twisted limbs as the shadows began to swirl faster, becoming a cyclone of despair. "You cannot chain me to this world!" Jake took a shaky breath, forcing back the fear that clawed at his throat. What if we set them free? They won't be able to hurt anyone else if they're at peace. Sam's eyes widened in horror. "Think about what you're saying. What if you're wrong? What if instead of freedom, you unleash something worse?" Jake faltered, the weight of the moment crashing down on him. But just then, the locket pulsed again, as though recognizing his hesitation. A penetrating warmth washed over him, and voices swelled in his consciousness, urging him to act. "Jake, please," Sam pleaded, stepping closer, fear etched in his features. "We need to get out." But deep down, Jake felt a twisted sense of duty. "I have to try, for them." Fighting the chaotic energy swarming around them, he closed his eyes and whispered, "I free you. I set you free." Suddenly, the vortex of shadows surged toward him. The figures clawed for a rise, reforming into one monstrous entity, angrier and hungrier than before. "No, you are mine!" it bellowed, and the ground trembled violently, trying to pull Jake in. With a gritted jaw and a racing heart, he opened his eyes, the locket glowing like a supernova. "I won't let you!" he shouted defiantly, pushing back against the dark tide, channeling every ounce of strength he could muster.
Whether it was salvation or damnation loomed uncertainly ahead. Would they face freedom, or would the consequences engulf them in a darkness so profound they wouldn't survive to tell the tale? As the shadows lunged, he braced himself for impact, feeling the locket surge even brighter, illuminating everything with a blinding light. Then darkness swallowed the room, and he heard one last chilling whisper seep from the shadows. "You have opened Pandora's box. Now embrace the fear that follows." What had they just unleashed upon the world? The darkness shifted, twisting into shapes that pressed against Jake's consciousness. His heart hammered in his chest, each beat resonating like a war drum. Sam's frantic voice faded, consumed by the ominous whispers that clawed at the edges of Jake's mind. "Jake, don't!" Sam's voice broke through, a thin thread of fear anchoring him to reality. But the shadows swirled, morphing into tormented faces, each trying to scream, yet trapped within a grotesque silence. "I can help you," Jake shouted, though deep within, doubt lurked like a shadow. The locket in his hand throbbed with a sickening warmth, radiating an energy both alluring and terrifying. It felt alive, begging for connection, whispering secrets that made his skin crawl. "Tell me what you need." The enormous figure, now more solid than ever, roared in agony as the shadows writhed, pulling at its form. "You will unleash the abyss. Do not meddle with what you do not understand." Pain shot through Jake's wrist as the locket clenched tighter, the metal turning to ice before burning hot again. He stumbled back as the walls creaked ominously, splinters of wood splitting from the pressure of the chaos. His breath became shallow, each inhalation a struggle against the impending dread. "I can't do this alone," he whispered, looking at Sam. "You have to help me." Sam stared back, horror etched across his face. "Help you? You want to unleash them," Sam cried, his voice trembling. "This isn't about helping. We need to find a way to contain it." But Jake felt pulled deeper into the fray, intuitive and reckless like a moth to flame. The range of terror was intoxicating, and he was desperate to experience more. "No, think about all the pain they've endured. They deserve peace." "What about our peace?" Sam yelled back, panic infecting his tone. The room trembled as the shadows clamored for dominance, threatening to tear apart everything they held dear. "Release me," hissed the dark figure, its voice resonating with an otherworldly echo. The words wrapped around them like a vice, squeezing tighter. "I will show you the truth." "Jake!" Sam's cry was frantic, but Jake felt his resolve hardening. "I can't fight this," Jake shouted, feeling the locket's power pulse through him like a wildfire. Desperation surged, and before he could think twice, he raised the locket high, feeling the captivating energy swirl around him. "I accept." His voice pierced through the chaos, a declaration that sent shockwaves through the swirling tempest. The shadows surged, no longer frenetic, but forming a stream like a flowing river. "Jake!" Sam's voice was strangled with fear. "You're making a mistake!" But the warmth spread through Jake's veins. It felt good, like freedom from the unrelenting weight of despair. As the shadows coalesced, he felt strength surge within him, melding with pain and rage, everything the souls had experienced. Suddenly, the shadowy figure grew still, its contorted face inching closer, almost pleading. "You think you can tame this chaos? You do not know the wrath of those who have been wronged." A wave of cold air slammed against them, spiraling from the locket, turning Jake's blood to ice. The room was shaking now, walls reverberating with the despair of countless souls trapped in the darkness. Jake's knees buckled as their mournful cries crescendoed, drowning out logic. Yes, the eyes of the dark figure burned with fury, but that flicker of desperation in its gaze haunted him. Was he truly their champion, or a fool inviting ruin? "Jake, we have to go!" Sam was scrambling backwards, terror driving him. "There's no way out." But as the shadows coiled tighter, wrapping around Jake like a serpent, he realized he had become part of this nightmare. The darkness roared with vengeance, and the figure loomed, its voice now a terrifying whisper. "You will know pain, and I will return." With a final blaze of light from the locket, the world spun, a whirlwind of shadows and hollow shrieks that threatened to consume them both. And in that instant, as the very foundation of reality trembled, Jake had to wonder, what did they truly unleash? Was it too late to turn back? Would the darkness have its way regardless of their choices? The answer seemed to blur through the encroaching chaos, and Jake braced for what came next. Or was it already here? In that moment of swirling chaos, Jake felt the weight of his choices bear down like a mountain. The dark figure loomed closer, its twisted smile reminiscent of something ancient and horrifying. He trembled, feeling the energy from the locket pulse violently, a desperate heartbeat intertwined with an overwhelming dread. "Let them go!" he shouted, but the words felt hollow, swallowed by the encroaching darkness. With a sudden flash, the shadows erupted around him. They were no longer just desperate souls. They transformed into a tempest of fury and anguish, swirling around Jake like a storm. Jake clenched his jaw, forcing back the fear threatening to drag him under. "Listen to me," Jake cried, directing his plea at the dark. "I can't undo the past, but I can help you find peace." The shadows paused, caught between the chaos they thrived on and the light Jake desperately conjured. For a fleeting moment, an icy hand of hope touched his heart, urging him to reach beyond himself. "Jake!" Sam's voice broke through the noise, piercing through the fear clouding his thoughts. "We're running out of time. If it gets any stronger—" "I'm here!" Jake shouted back, feeling the warmth of the locket growing as it responded to his urgency. It flickered with both menace and promise, imbued with the cries of the souls that hungered for release. "Together we can break the curse!" Sam eyed him, struggling against the dark tide that swirled around them. "What do we do?" Jake took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. "We make a choice. We can either give in to the darkness or channel it into something new." He faced the figure, heart pounding furiously. "I won't let you take us. We're more powerful than this." With each word, the energy surrounding them surged. The souls trapped inside the shadows vacillated between turmoil and the potential for liberation. Jake tightened his grip on the locket, feeling its heat spread through his body, a living force that could either destroy or recreate. "I choose liberation," he declared, echoing a decision that reverberated in his very being. "I release you from this curse." At that moment, the locket blazed bright, a beam of light erupting from it like a bolt of hope against the darkness. Jake held it high, channeling not just his strength, but the collective pain of the tortured souls swirling around them. "Feel it," he whispered, eyes locked on the monstrous figure. "You were never meant to be bound to this anguish. Be free." The shadows writhed violently, as if struck by lightning. The figure faltered, the momentary loss of control feeding into Jake's plea. The hollow eyes of the creature flickered, revealing a glimmer of something raw. Fear, yes, but also a need for liberation. "No, you cannot rewrite what was written," it roared, the voice shaking the very ground beneath them. But Jake felt the truth resonate within him. The past could indeed be rewritten. Harnessing that energy, he turned to Sam, who looked lost and terrified, but there was a flicker of hope in his expression. "Sam, we have to do this together." Without another word, they stepped forward, the fear binding them in an unbreakable bond. Together, they faced the darkness, shoulders squared against the storm. "On the count of 3, Jake yelled. 1, 2, 3, they shouted in unison. The brilliant light exploded around them, swirling into a majestic cyclone that pulled from the anger and pain that had festered like a wound in Cedar Grove for generations. Jake felt the locket vibrate violently, its energy intensifying, merging with his own spirit, lifting him higher. The shadowy figure shielded its eyes, unaccustomed to the illumination breach. For it was the light of hope, a light that could shatter barriers built over centuries. "No!" the figure cried, its furious voice struggling against the tide of energy. "I will not be lost!" But the pulse of freedom surged again. With conviction etched into their hearts, Jake and Sam conjured the light, exploding into a tidal wave of brilliance. It surged outward, enveloping the figure, the swirling shadows unraveling like threads from a frayed garment. "Be free! Accept your fate!" Jake shouted, feeling the powerful energy push through him, pouring into a final, glorious flash that enveloped everything in brilliant light. And then came the silence. When the light faded, Jake found himself standing at the edge of Cedar Grove's festival, the joyous laughter of children and parents flooding back into his ears like a sweet serenade. He felt warm summer air brush against his skin. Confused, Sam blinked, looking around, awed by the unexpected return to normalcy. Did it work? Jake looked towards the crowd, feeling the weight of the world slipping away, replaced with an undeniable sense of peace. "I think so," he murmured in disbelief. They had faced darkness together and emerged not just alive, but changed. "Where's Lily?" Panic flickered in Sam's eyes. Jake turned, searching the joyful faces. And there, amidst the crowd, was his sister, dancing among her friends, laughter bright and uncontained. Relief flooded him, tears pricking at the corners of his eyes. "Lily!" he shouted, rushing toward her. She glanced over, her face lighting up with joy. "Jake! Sam!" she laughed, running to them, the embodiment of innocence untouched by the horror that had nearly consumed them. As they enveloped her in a massive embrace, a swell of energy washed over them, a warmth that signified the vanquished weight of the shadows gone, replaced by something brighter. "Thank you for believing," Sam whispered, gazing around him as the town flew vibrant and alive, unaware of the darkness they had defeated. Jake nodded, heart full. They had faced the fear of Cedar Grove and conquered it. And then it hit him. The journal lay abandoned in the alley behind them, its pages fluttering in the night breeze. "We can't let this happen again," he murmured. "Then we'll figure it out." Sam's resolve strengthened at the thought. Together. The festival lights twinkled above them, vibrant against a starry sky, an unspoken promise of hope glimmering brightly. The darkness was gone, but it was a reminder, one they wouldn't soon forget. As laughter echoed softly around them, their family reunited, Jake made a vow. No matter what lay ahead, they would face it together. And for Cedar Grove, a new story would rise from the ashes of its haunted past. The curse was broken, but they would remain vigilant, for every shadow held stories yet to be told. Now listen closely. If you enjoyed this conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button. Now to feed the algorithm. Your support means the world. And please flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel, and your actions light up our community like the stars in the sky. Let's keep this alive.